What's happening, team? Hope it just finds everybody well. Welcome back to the Built for Pressure podcast with me, Will Foden. Today, I'm going to go over some of that that's happening massively inside the high performance space. And for me, it's actually seeing these 5 key warning signs that you're actually slipping and you're hitting cruise control. It's summer, everyone's on holiday, everyone's having, as I think what youngsters say, good vibes. People that are of older generation, we say they're just having a good time. But for me, I see so many professional people slacking. More to the position of actually they sink to the levels of societal expectation, and what they don't do is they don't put themselves first. So what I'm going to do is actually give us a bit of a breakdown in relation to how do you navigate this, because I am definitely not someone to tell you not to go out and enjoy yourself. I'm not the coach for you if you think that you can't actually enjoy what you're doing whilst trying to achieve elite level outcomes. But most of the time when I see people in this space, what they do is they're either absolutely all in and they're chasing huge audacious goals and they get there and they feel unfulfilled and they take a huge step back, which is usually getting worse. Or it's just like a slow puncture. And what most people are doing is because it's summer and because the sun's out and because I could have an extra bit of this, or I could do a little bit of that, or actually I could step back, or they've told me this. Those little excuses start to creep in, and what I'm going to do is show you 5 key things that I see across the board and actually how do you alleviate that. Because in this time of period, let's not get it twisted. Summer's out, it's barbecue season, there's more calories than ever around, and more to the point, actually, the lemon is worth the squeeze from a connection standpoint. If you're in the UK, trust me, I know exactly what it feels like not for you to actually have some sunshine, where usually we're doing the opposite. I know a lot of guys and ladies listen to this in Singapore, and vice versa. You have the same day absolutely every single day. It's wet, it's 36 degrees, but more so, it gives you more of an excuse. Because actually, there are some telltale warning signs that you have. And actually, the first one that I came up with, and I sat here writing this on, I'm actually filming this on a Monday, which I don't usually do, but I had this in my head. I thought, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to smash this. Currently, you're not waking up with urgency. When you set out at the beginning of the year, we had a big push in relation to actually you having a vision and how do you want 2025 to look like. And those big targets that you set yourself at the beginning of the year are now have gone from being, I have to achieve these, to they're actually nice to haves. And I promise you now, I've had this with inside my business before. I've had this where it's a case of I've been searching. It's mainly been monetary value. I've been looking to just achieve more growth. Well, actually, not all growth is equal. Vice versa, I've been in a position where from a physical standpoint, is how many people are still stood there saying, I'm going to get in the best shape of my life at insert whatever age, and they still haven't. They still look like a melted wheelie bin. Or they're still putting on this like excuses factor. Now, let's not get it twisted. I'm going to give you some understanding around positions of that, because I think that's massively important. But that is something that is massively prevalent right now when it comes down to these are like high performance tripwires, so to speak. Number 2, and you're just now going, I'm going to hit the do more button. Most people who are leaving, going away on holiday, going away with their family, most of it going all inclusive is absolutely a game changer, especially if you've got a kid. With George, we've been on all inclusive, and it makes life so much easier when he's got lamb in one hand and steak in the other, thinking about what wallet's doing. But vice versa, whilst on holiday, what most people do is they take the full gas off. The issue with that is they know they're overdoing it, but they're like, I'll sort this out when I get back home. And then what do they do when they get back home? The pendulum swings the exact other way. What they do, they suddenly go home, they hit a huge calorie deficit, a diet, or I'm going to eat clean. They then actually try and optimize absolutely everything in their life. And lo and behold, 3 weeks later, they feel like shit. They still look like shit. And actually what they don't do is they don't see any progress, instead of doing the opposite, which is actually recognizing, we've talked about this before, about high performance being a dimmer switch. If you pull it down and understand how to play that game of how to still stay active whilst enjoying yourself on holiday, you're not going to lose your gains. You're more likely actually to come back from holiday in better shape, and vice versa, and be living, breathing and operating at a standard where you don't actually have to have this all in, all out mentality. Number 3 is you stop challenging yourself. How many people here have been in a position where they suddenly, their life's just easy, they're in the cruise mode? When I speak to most professional people who are like CEOs, high-level executives of some description, or even athletes too, once you've got into the team, once you've broken through, once you've grown the business, the hardest thing to do is to keep your edge in that and keep that same level of intensity, because the intensity of you climbing is a lot harder to you actually just get cruise control and rolling around at the top. And actually what happens here in relation to deep down, you're avoiding the hard yards and just justifying it to yourself, saying I've earned a break, or others are pulling back, why can't I? I think that's not telling you that you shouldn't step back. What that's telling you is that you need to have stepping back with a focus when you get back. Most people step back and they don't know where the fuck they're going when they get back. And if you've just gone on holiday or you've had a huge bout of work, or the opposite, you are in cruise control right now, the issue is you haven't actually got something in front of your face. We're actually running a challenge with the Built for Pressure team and friends of mine. We're heading to the Three Peaks, hitting Ben Nevis, hitting Scarfell at night, and then we're also going to be doing Snowdon Llanberis. We're going to do a bit of nostalgia for me and Mr. Bradley Foster, who did that until he ran as many laps of that in 24 hours a couple of years ago. But there's a reason for putting a challenge like that out there. It's because actually everything else can be pretty easy if you make it. And for me, it's not a case around pushing people to their extremes. It's about pushing people to a limit where actually are they testing themselves. Because if you test yourself on a regular basis, that's how you're going to keep your standards high. You keep your standards high, you're going to be more effective and be an asset. And there's a huge snowball effect for those that are willing to do hard things. Number 4, it's easy to act and just do more shit than it is to actually have a plan and execute it. What I mean by that is most people lose direction when they get back from holiday, or when they are during holiday, they massively lose the reasons behind what they're doing. Then what they do is they get back and they just think more equals more. Being very candid and very open, I am the person who is compulsive in relation to taking action, because I believe I'd much rather take action and figure it out later than plan and strategize it. I did that for a long period of time. My homework and my personal development personally over the last quarter, and this quarter and Q2, has been actually sitting down on a Monday and literally systemizing my week so I know what actions are going to push the needle. I find that so fucking hard because I'm not that way inclined. I am a workhorse. I want to just be doing more, pushing more. I want to see more action. I want to push more venture. I want to make sure that I'm making more money. I want to make sure that I'm helping more people. The shopping list goes on in relation to what I want to do, but that actually is not elite level performance. Doing more feels good at the moment, but actually that's not going to help you climb to rise to the altitude where actually the elite big dogs are rising, so to speak, and vice versa. If you are that person, an executive or CEO who is cruising at altitude and you are cruising at a higher position, my question to you is, are you actually doing that for you on a personal basis? I see too many people in the high rises of business who are absolutely smashing it from a wallet perspective, but they look like a bag of milk, and actually what they don't actually look like they can actually operate the levels they're operating from, because actually mainly they're dictating. I'm not asking you to be shredded wheat, and I'm not asking you to look like a professional sportsman or lady. I am asking you to hold the standard. I am saying to you that if you have made it from a professional standpoint and you are making cash, you have not got the excuse not to actually be a high-level operator across the board. That is mind, body, and business. And for me and you, that's something that's really, really important throughout this podcast. And I'm going to give you some frameworks in a minute for that. And lastly, and this is something that actually I lost when I played rugby, after I finished rugby for a long period of time, is you can't remember the last time you felt on fire. What does success actually mean to you? I remember when I used to play high level tennis. I used to, when I was a kid, I was on road to Wimbledon. I played tennis since I was 4, between the ages of 4 and 16. Played at Queen's, captained my county when I was 14, when everyone else was an adult. I coached since I was 14, and I remember I got smashed on the road to Wimbledon. I've said this story before, those that have listened to the rest of the podcast. And I kind of got to 16, and I went home to my dad, and I said, Dad, tennis doesn't make me feel alive. When I'm playing rugby, everything stops. I have nothing else on my mind apart from I want to just fucking go wild and be locked into the game. When I left rugby, I found it very difficult because I didn't actually have that anymore. And if I'm being brutally candid, I don't really have that in the same respect anymore. I deal with quite a few people who have been in the military, and military personnel will tell you there's nothing like a firefight. I've never been in a firefight, thank fuck, but more to the point of I'll never be able to experience it. Until you experience it, you'll never understand it. But putting it back into your shoes, when you actually stepped into doing the thing that you wanted to do, whether it was professionally, personally, altogether, or physically, you had this purpose and passion that you could just feel. Where most people who I see at this time of year haven't got that. Everything's good. Sun's out, it's okay. Diet's okay. I feel like I'm okay. Life's okay. Fuck that. Life isn't just okay. Because you know and I both know that we haven't got time to fuck about and piss around with average. And it's actually an internal thing that happens from. And that's not telling you have to go and do something crazy. That's not telling you that you have to just go and be an absolute weapon and insert something highly audacious just for the sake of it. What it is you don't even know a lot of the time what actually sets you up and turns you on in that respect. Not in the other way. You can keep that dirty mind yourself. But my point This happens in huge, many fields for athletes. As they finish playing sport, and then what do? They get into the corporate space. They think that pressure is going to be equal, and lo and behold, a year later, they look like they just look so drained and bored and just average. Whereas, it's funny, I was just speaking to a friend of mine, Dave Lewis. Shout out to you, mate. He was on the Athlete Accelerator podcast with their team around leaving rugby and starting basically bootstrapping a business. And we were talking, and actually we were saying that there was something on the podcast together that we heard, which was actually, why do your best years have to be when you're an athlete? When you're a professional, why can't those be your best years? He's got a lovely family, pushing a business. He had an incredible rugby career, but watching the intensity that he's operating at actually is the same thing what I drive, is that I'm not willing to just give up. And actually now, why can't the best years of my life be in front of me rather than what they used to be? And I think many professionals get stuck in that wormhole of unsure about what actually makes them tick. And actually taking an hour to sit down and do that is massive. You'll hear so many people talking around, what are your values, and are you living to your values, and this kind of shit, where actually most people don't even know that. If you don't know that, grab a pen, Dr. John DeMartini, take his values test, type into Google. Promise you, it's literally take you 10 minutes. It'll open your mind in relation to how you actually operate. And it's not a case around anything wushu. It is very much a case of is the visual matching the audio with the action and the skills that you're acquiring to what you're trying to achieve. That's the difference. So now a lot of many maybe sat there going, okay, cool, well, I know that I've hit cruise control, and I'm apologising to you. You should don't apologise to me, apologise to yourself, because you're not letting anybody else down but you. But this is how do you fix it. And we're going to talk about the personal, professional, and also the physical too, just for a couple of minutes. Something that we talked about in the immersion, which if you guys would like to know more about the immersion, we're running our next event in Saudi Arabia on September the 26th and 27th. So if you are in the UAE or surrounding area, you want to fly across, we've got some wicked people involved. But Owen Satterley said something that massively stuck with me, that I've said, but not in this way, which I think this will really resonate. It's stop multiplying by zero. When you go away, most people think actually that you have to switch off and nothing counts. You literally, do you know what you do? You get on a plane, you land in an all-inclusive, and then you just start eating and drinking like a weapon, pretending that because you're in a different area, that doesn't matter. Where instead, and the reason why your sleep's terrible, and the reason why you actually get back, you need a holiday after a holiday, is because what you've done is you've absolutely smashed yourself from all sides instead of actually learning how to recover. Now, switching off is not the option. But switching to actually dialing that switch down and going, okay, what's going to give me energy on holiday? Active recovery. Go and do sports when you're out there. That's a massive one. 2, walk. Most people get Ubers everywhere. You're not going to see everything if you walk. There's a physiological piece where you're trying to increase that. We talked about the last podcast, or last couple of podcasts ago, which if you guys want to learn more, I'm going to do more about sleep. But actually, when you're working throughout the day, you're increasing a neurotransmitter called adenosine. When that hits the top, that's what tells you to go to sleep. Where actually what most people do is that happens through work and working out and pushing yourself. If you don't work out, you don't increase that adenosine threshold, and then what happens? You go to bed and you're wired and tired, for example. So actually, you doing training that can be effective in that manner, basically doing bodybuilding, or I'm not sure where I learned this through Luke Lehman, shout out to him at the Muscle Nerds, it's called a death circuit. I don't know why it's called a death circuit, please don't die. But adding 4 exercises together, 8 reps, upper, lower, 25 minutes on the clock, go. And just as many rounds as you can. And doing that is going to actually improve, and pulling it right back 2 or 3 days a week, that's fine. Me personally, I like taking running shoes because if I run, I can explore. That's what I do. Number 2, it's actually getting yourself back in check as fast as you possibly can, even when you're away. It's just basically increasing your protein. And increasing it more than you normally would can actually be massively beneficial whilst you're away, because you actually burn approximately 20 to 30% of those calories through digestion and metabolism. So if you're going to overeat, 20 to 30% of it isn't going to be actually counted towards whether having too many calories or not enough. And that's really, really important. And what I see too many people doing is when they are starting to slip and they are struggling, is the first thing to go is their diet. Making sure that as a constant is massively important. And the excuses of not having enough protein whilst you're away are absolutely bullshit. When it comes down to the amount of shops that now have literally protein everything. I'm not really a fan of people buying like protein bread and stuff that's hyper processed, but I do understand there's a time and a place for it. But there's no reason why when you're traveling you can't actually clip that ticket. We have 2 more, and what I'd like you to do is actually zoom out and recognizing that, yes, a rest is massively important. That's probably the reason I had one of my customers. Kate went away for 2 weeks, and she came back and she looked and felt even better than when she left. It was because she recovered, she calmed down, she was nowhere near as stressed, and vice versa. Her body actually was ready to rock and roll when she got back. The key thing that she had when she got back was structure. Too many people are zooming out on holiday, and they're trying to, there's two types of people. There's people that actually they go blackout when they go away, and they just don't care about what's happening, and they just literally rest and they get back and deal with it. Or people like me that are always pondering the next step in life. When they have space, that capacity to actually think about that grows. But actually, the thing that's the bottleneck for most professionals right now is not having enough structure and momentum when they get back. They've got no idea what they're training for. They've got no idea where they're going in relation to the quarter. They have no idea what they're heading into because they've either not checked their emails, which they shouldn't do, or they haven't got somebody to help them with it, and vice versa. They're lacking direction. So gaining that structure and zooming out is massively important. And lastly, this is very physical dominant, but I think this is one of the biggest, best frames that you can actually have as someone who is operating on all cylinders and wanting to push themselves, is stop thinking that your training is just about how you look. How many of you are still stuck on how you look? And you think that is elite level performance for you? I guarantee. I remember I was going to try and fight in Vegas for the Masters Worlds, and I was like, right, my old coach Shane O'Leary, shout out to you, mate. We're like, right, 6 months, let's get shredded. I got for me, shredded, 8-pack shredded. I looked the best I've ever looked by a long, long way. And I then reversed back because my goals changed. And for a long time, my self-worth was then actually even worse because I kept measuring myself against how well I looked. Whereas actually, when I start thinking about it from like a long-term development standpoint, when we start looking at you training like an athlete, living like an athlete, being professional in your process, actually enjoying what you're doing, recognizing that you being a walking penis is not actually correlated to how successful you are, excuse my French, and vice versa. How do you actually operate in a position when you've got multiple plates spinning means that actually you haven't got the capacity to do the things needed for you to be shredded year round? I'll challenge, there are not many executives that I know who are absolutely washboard shredded. I've trained one out of thousands of people that I've trained. There's one man who is lean 365, very much genetics, but also trains like a beast. And the only person I've ever seen in my life to be able to utilize, when the more stress he got, the more lean he got. Most people get fatter. So stop thinking that it's all about how you look, but how do you actually feel? How do you actually operate? And actually, how do you it's funny. I was out with Dan Reeve when I was in Cornwall a couple of weeks ago. And last time he saw me, I was getting ready for this 110 Ultra, and I was big. I was 99 kilos, and I looked puffy because everything was so inflamed, and I had to eat so much food. We were on the beach. It's like, mate, you look good. You look like you lift, and you look jacked, but you look like you enjoy yourself. That's me. I want to be 8 weeks out from any competition. I want to be able to be an asset in any physical endeavor that I go into, and vice versa. I do want to look athletic, and I do want to look like I know what I'm doing, but I also don't want to be carrying Tupperware around with my kid all the time. I don't want to be over excessive in a restaurant and weighing my food whilst I'm out. My point being, the reason why I train now is it helps me operate at a higher frequency. It gives me energy, and more so, I look and feel and perform at my best, even though looking at my best no longer just means being absolutely dialed in, shredded. Looking athletic and being shredded are very, very different. And my advice to you is, if you want to have the former, you want to look great and dominate your performance, you want to stop looking at it from like a bodybuilding perspective of cutting and bulking, and actually think about long-term athletic development means eating like an adult, training like an athlete, focusing as a professional, and being present. Do that on a continual basis, and you'll be there. I hope that's helpful, team. I hope that gives you a bit of an understanding in relation to if you're getting these warning signs inside your process. I totally understand it. It's very, very normal. But the difference that's going to make the difference is that you actually take charge of it and you own it. Own it and what we're going to do about it. If you've been looking in, shameless plug for what's happening in my world, I'm actually heading off to Canada in September. In that, we are actually going to be closing our doors before the end of August, and we're not going to open them again until Q4. Purely on the basis that what I want to be able to do is not only look after the members of the team that are already in the game, any new members of the team that we've got 2 more weeks, I'll be taking them on with. If they're in, they are absolutely locked and loaded and primed for them to hit Q4 running and actually make sure they dominate the rest of the year. If you've been struggling with your performance currently, and you're an executive, CEO, an athlete, somebody who wants to actually perform better, look better, and actually dominate in times that matter, I'd like to get to know you. DM me the web BFP. I'll show you exactly what our intake looks like and what programs we offer, and vice versa. I massively appreciate you listening to this podcast, and likewise, this is the name of the game, is building a community around this. So please share this with people that actually were like-minded. Vice versa, if there's messages that resonated with you, need any help in relation to your current process with questions, please DM me on Instagram, Will Foden, LinkedIn at Will Foden, or this will be on YouTube as well as the podcast. Just drop me a comment and I will massively be ready to help you, so to speak. Anyway, I digress. Have an awesome day, gang, and I'll catch you soon.